Now, who knows? Let's go over to my YouTube channel on the computer. Some point in the future, this will be very professional. I'll have like my own little theme tune going, and it'll say, you know, people do that, don't they? They do, oh, this is countdown to the stream, and it's very exciting, and all the things. And why is this not showing up on my channel? Surely I should be able to see this stream happening. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Let's put that up. There it is. Yeah. Yeah, you see, you can hear me there, can't you? You can hear me? Hey, excellent. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do, is it? I mean, what did I want to do? Tap that and just see if there's anyone in. Nobody in yet. I guess we'll wait a couple of minutes or so, just yarning on about nothing, just to see if anybody turns up. I have been, you know, touting this around for a couple of hours this evening, saying, yeah, I'm going to go streaming, but I'm always a bit vague about when I'm going to start. Nobody's really said they're definitely going to turn up, so I might have to just kick off without actually knowing that anybody's in the background watching me. It says one there now, one person there now, but that's probably just me on my PC in the background. So Wilds of Eldraine doesn't seem as bad, Wilds of Eldraine, as some of the sets we've had in the past, does it? I think we might try doing this in game now. This is going to be a bit of a pain if we do it in game, because all the cards are going to be in a different order and they're all going to be mixed up with all the ones we did. But because it's gone into the game now, what that does mean is that we have the card costs on the adventure cards, don't we? We will be able to see those. Look, I've got some cards. Will and Rowan, they are the exclusives in the Battle from the Ages booster. I had just one or two boosters left over from the last time they was running it, and so I've managed to get my hands on Will and Rowan already, and you know, like I say, I think they could be pretty good, to be perfectly honest. And Gumdrop Poisoner, I believe I opened in a completely free booster. Worth reiterating at this point that when a new set releases, the correct number of boosters to buy is 0. That's correct, yes, because, you know, most of the commons and uncommons are worthless and not worth playing with. We saw, didn't we, that, you know, there's a lot of commons and uncommons that are better than uncommons and uncommons have been in the past, and not totally worthless to master when you're mastering cards, but still, you know, you don't actually want them and they're not worth actually having. They'll turn up when they turn up. So get the cards that you want from the elite boosters. Get the commons and uncommons, just let them dribble in from the free boosters. Don't bother buying any actual packs, though. Pointless, pointless, pointless. How are we doing? Has anyone turned up yet? No, it's been 3 minutes, though. We better crack on, haven't we? So we're going to try... Should we do it in alphabetical order? It wasn't. I don't think it was in any kind of order. See, I'm seeing this is all mana cost order, and I'm seeing them all mixed up here. Things that I've seen and things that I haven't seen. And I don't think putting it in alphabetical order is going to make a toss of difference. But let's just try, shall we? We'll try doing it in this order. I'm just skipping through the ones we've already seen, and if it ends up being a total clusterfuck, then we won't do it like that again, will we? So here we are with a Tale for the Ages. This support can't be reinforced. Right, 2 shields we don't like. At the beginning of your turn, creatures you control that have enchanted or a roll get +X until the beginning of your next turn. X is this support shield. That's very weird. This support can't be reinforced then, isn't it? You know, what's the difference between having 2 of these in play with 2 shields giving everything +4/+4 and one of them with 4 shield? The difference, of course, being that if you've got 2 copies of this with 2 shields each, well, one of them is more likely to die. So I'm not sure I really like that. Can't be reinforced. And also it looks a bit pointless as well. Or have a roll. Get plus X. X is this support shield. There's better. Whatever it is, I'm sure there's better. Moving on. Agatha of the Vile Cauldron. Nice. When you match an activated gem. Okay, 11 mana 1/1. We don't like, do we? When you match an activated gem, convert X gems to red or green. X is this creature's power. Yeah, that's doing thing, isn't it? Where it's converting gems at the wrong time. X is this creature's power, which is 1 currently. That's not good, is it? Activate 2 red. Creatures in your hand and creatures you control get +1/+1 and haste until end of turn. Right, there's the haste until end of turn off activate gems thing happening again. Creature hand and creatures you control get +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. It's rubbish, isn't it? It's a piece of shit. It's a piece of shit. We don't care. What is this? That's the bargain thing. When you cast this card, choose between roll, support, or none. If you choose roll, support, a random card you control with the chosen type is destroyed, and you perform this card's bargain effects. Right. Well, you know, classic pitfall of MTGPQ design, isn't it? It's having a negative effect on a card that doesn't need it. A 12 mana 4/4 that fights something would still be bad, wouldn't it? So putting the negative effect on there is just overcomplicated and also worthless at the same time. We saw him yesterday, Archive Dragon. Drain 6 mana from your hand, 11 mana 4/6. When this creature enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. We don't care, do we? We don't care about him having ward. Who cares about him having ward? He's not big enough to be a significant threat. He's already done the enter the battlefield thing when he comes into play. As a package, generally unuseful. Would you like to know a blue creature that costs just a little bit more, that's going to get you a lot more cards and also a lot more mana and also probably have haste and attack and also make your opponent discard their hand when it comes into play for only 5 or 6 more mana? I'm sure you can figure out what that one is for yourselves. When this creature enters the battlefield, this is a 16 mana, this is too expensive. Target creature gets the royal roll. Oh, we can tap on that now. And what we can see is that the royal roll tells us nothing about what the royal roll does. Hooray! That's useful. Let's see if I'm smart. I am smart, and I left. Oh, well, I didn't quite leave it. Where is it? Oh, release dates. There we go. Release notes are in here. It switched over to the wrong tab for some reason. What is the royal roll? Let's check out what the royal roll is. Oh, that's the thing where it gets hexproof and vigilance. Yeah, we don't really give a toss about the royal roll, I'm afraid. Target creature you control gets kind of hexproof-y wardiness. That's what giving something the royal roll means. Then your creature with the roll get +4/+4 and gain flying. So 16 mana 8/8 flyer if you want to do it to itself. Just not interesting enough. Not interesting enough. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Bargain. That creature gets flying and lifelink until beginning and end of your turn. Yeah, there's a theme with bargain, isn't it? Is that all of these cards still wouldn't be broken if you didn't have to sacrifice a thing. So just have them like that. Armory Mice. Beginning of combat on your turn, celebration. This creature gets +0/+2 until end of turn. Like that is going to make anybody care. Ash, Party Crasher. And this creature attacks celebration. This creature gets +2/+1. Celebration only triggers once, doesn't it? Yeah, okay. So when its value is 2, perform this card's associated celebration effect. so we don't care. I mean, a 9 mana 4/3 with haste. It's still not broken, is it? It'd be all right. A 9 mana 4/3 with haste would be reasonably, be a lot better than a lot of uncommons, wouldn't it? Make it be that. When an enchantment support you control is destroyed or reinforced, or loses a reinforcement, draw a card. Yeah, nobody's making a combo out of that, are they? Asinine antics. Oh, I like that. Oh, they're turning everyone. She's turning everyone into donkeys as well. Look, it's a fairy turning people into donkeys. That's cool. Opposing creatures. All opposing creatures gain the cursed roll. Now we know what the cursed roll is, don't we? It turns things into 1/1s. If this card was cast during your turn, gain 3 mana. Well, that's uninteresting. However, this is a blue flash card that works as creature control. And I've got to tell you, I've been waiting for one of these to turn up for quite some time. It's a bit expensive. It's still not working against huge stack of Thopters. It's quite possible that if you turn your opponent's huge stack of cursed zombie tokens into 1/1s, as they're still lethal, because those things get pretty big. Unlikely, I suppose, that somebody's going to have. Oh no, I don't know. Actually, I think the Tainted Adversary is capable of slapping down 100 zombies, isn't it? But this is certainly worth looking at because we haven't had any blue flash creature removal for quite some time. We don't, of course, have to worry about infinitely large Danithas anymore. Not that Danithas ever got infinitely large, really. The loot counter would have kicked in. There'd probably be about 30 copies of it in play. So this would have still gone some little way to controlling it. I'm interested in this. And as I say, this does do all of the opposing creatures. Cursed Roll does one other thing. Doesn't it do a thing when they die as well? It turns them into 1/1s. The beginning of your turn, the base creature until the beginning of your next turn. Oh, right. What am I thinking of? I think it was the Wicked Roll. That's right. It's the Wicked Roll. When the Wicked Roll things die, they lose a bunch of life. Oh, Cursed Roll. Oh, it's not creature removal. Cursed Roll doesn't turn things into 1/1s until the roll disappears. It turns them into 1/1s until the beginning of your next turn. Ignore everything you just said. I don't care about this card anymore. Turning things into 1/1s for a single turn. I really don't think I give a toss. Nice try, Asinine Antics. Aura Thief. This rings a bell. I feel like we've had Aura Thief before, haven't we? I certainly recognise the name Aura Thief, but then, I probably recognise it from playing Paper. Just me talking to myself. At the end of the turn, if your opponent controls 5 or more non-aura enchantment supports, okay, that's unlikely to happen. I think the person who's most likely to have a bunch of supports out is Pajami, isn't it? It's the white Ajani Invigorate Leadership, or however you pronounce that and whatever it means. I don't think his supports are enchantments, aren't they? This creature gains Defender until the beginning of your next turn. Well, that's really dull, isn't it? Otherwise, oh, okay. If your opponent controls 5 or more non-aura enchantment supports, 5 or more. Oh, right, okay. No, they have to write. They have to be non-aura enchantment supports, and if they are, this creature is crap and gets Defender and dies. Otherwise, drain 6 mana from your opponent's hand. You gain X mana. X is the amount of mana drained this way. If your opponent controls 5 or more non-aura enchantment supports. See, that's unlikely to happen, isn't it? So what we're talking about here is a 9 mana 2/2, which is small and easy to kill, but you are draining 6 mana from your opponent every turn. You're putting 6 mana into your hand. If he can fight his way through that and put 5 non-aura enchantments, specifically enchantments, into play, and there's a good chance this guy will die because he gets defender. And then when he does, you steal all of those supports. I mean, that's okay, isn't it? I'm not sure it's good enough. It's certainly okay to be draining some mana and gaining some mana every turn. The problem is we do still live in a standard world where, you know, somebody plays Cut Your Losses and they play a Blade Core Serpent and they're off. You know, we're not playing an incremental game where people put a small amount of mana into their hand every turn. Yeah, it's been a long time since the game of Magic Puzzle Quest was like that. So maybe this is only as good as high shit tier, you know. I mean, great high shit tier, you know. But yeah, maybe only as good as high shit tier. I don't know. Some people like him. Maybe some people even play him in standard. I don't think draining 6 mana and gaining the mana is good enough. Good though it is, I don't think it's good enough. Moving along. Barrow Naughty. Very naughty. If you control another fairy, this creature gains lifelink. Right, just give it lifelink. It's a 6 mana 1/3. Why not? If you match a black gem, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Uninteresting in all ways. At the beginning of just too many words. Take all the words off. Fuck it, make it a 6 mana 3/3 lifelink. That'd be exciting, wouldn't it? People might play that. A 6 mana 3/3 lifelink. Why not? It's not broken. It's better than lots of stuff. Make it that. Belligerent of the Ball. At the beginning of the combat on your turn. Celebration, that's the casting 2 things. Target creature control +1/+0 menace. Dull. Balluna Grand Score, we had, didn't she? Now she's the adventure-y person. But we can flip her over now and see what her cost is. Reduce the cost of each adventure card in your hand by X. Now we've seen now, she was one of the first cards we looked at. We've seen now that there are in fact a lot of adventure cards in this set. Are there a lot of good adventure cards? I'm not convinced that there are a lot of good adventure cards, but you know, it's difficult to tell these things when you're barreling along reviewing one card after the other. But you'd have to imagine no. Seek Thrills is an 11 cost spell. Destroy the top 6 cards of your library, return the 3 adventure cards. There's a number of adventure cards in your graveyard. I still have no idea. You'd have to go and build an adventure deck and find out. Maybe she'll even be worth a play. Certainly not a chase card, though, let's face it. Balluna's Gatekeeper is just a large. We probably looked at this yesterday, didn't we? Yeah, in fact, I think I remember her from yesterday. So just a large creature. Return target creature costs 11 or less to your opponent's hand. That's not a good enough removal staple to not a good enough creature. Pick one of the first 4 cards from your library. Fetch that card. It gains half its mana. Bargain, it gains full mana. So you have to pick roll, support, or none. We don't really know how easy it is to put rolls into play, do we? I mean, there's certainly no Planeswalker who's slapping rolls out all over the place. If you choose a support, it's a random support type. It's a random one of your supports, and you tend to like your support. I don't know about you lot out there, but I like my supports. There are people, again, like, you know, in Ajani Invigorate Leadership, but he's white. Who is a Planeswalker who is black? who slaps a load of supports into play. I don't know. I can't think of a Planeswalker's Black who slaps a lot of supports into play. I can think of plenty that put one support into play. Can't think of ones that willy-nilly slap supports into play. Angrath, that doesn't really count, does his first ability cost 9 loyalty to get 2 gold tokens? Gold tokens are the type of things you'd be wanting to throw away. But 9 loyalty is a lot, and Angrath's first ability isn't very good, and Angrath's not very good. So we've got an expensive, basically kind of got an expensive Grim Tutor here. At 6 mana, Grim Tutor was good, wasn't it? You know, and that was fine. Getting half the mana in the card was fine. I used to use that plenty. I used to put half the mana in Ruinous Ultimatum. I used to put the other half the mana in the card by paying for it. And then I would cast Ruinous Ultimatum because that was a great card to play with. 13 mana here on Beseech the Mirror for the card to get half its mana. I mean, you've always got that choice, haven't you? I don't know. I feel like paying 13 mana to have a card that 13 mana goes into. I mean, don't you just want to play with Karn? Yeah? Don't you just want to suck that card into your hand straight away with his first ability, which is nice and cheap, and boosts all of his mana bonuses? I don't know. It depends about roles, doesn't it? I can't see this being a staple anywhere at all. It kind of depends on roles. Right, remind me. This everyone's really excited about this Wicked Roll. I kind of couldn't give a crap. When a creature with Wicked Roll loses Wicked Roll, is destroyed, or loses a reinforcement. Right, okay. So that's the thing, isn't it? Wicked Roll. Is that if you bargain, yeah, and you destroy the token support that's giving something Wicked Roll, it loses the Wicked Roll. I can't remember whether it loses it straight away or whether it loses it end of turn, but it does lose the Wicked Roll, doesn't it? So if you cast this, you've got a creature with Wicked Roll, and you get rid of the Wicked Roll, then not only do you get mana in something, you also deal some amount of damage to your opponent. I'll be keeping an eye out for this card, but I can't imagine it being good. It looks to me a lot like a bad Grim Tutor. Besotted Knight, pretty sure we saw yesterday. Yeah. Bespoke Battle Garb is some equipment. Oh, we are getting equipment to go with our rolls, are we? Okay. Celebration, your first creature gets +3/+3 until the beginning of your next turn. Yeah, you know, there are many things we need to tell Webcore about how bad Octagon were at their job. So one of them was that there's no need for fucking equipment to trigger every fucking turn. All this equipment needs to say on it, fuck this celebration shit. All this equipment needs to say on it is your first creature gets +3/+3. That's it. Your first creature gets +3/+3. 5 words if you count +3/+3 as a word. That's all it needs to have on it. If you're going to put celebration on it, for God's sake, think of a reason to have celebration on something. Yeah? Make it like a good creature to start with, like a nice cheap 3/3 lifelinker, and make the celebration do something really great, like give it +8/+8 or something, you know? No thought has gone in to what's that. I'm sure in paper, you know, because it's hard in paper to cast 2 cards in a turn until you get to the late stages of the game. But don't just port celebration in straight from paper. Think about what it means to the game. For God's sake! Target opposing creature gets stun counter 5. Okay, now that's taking it out of the running for a while, isn't it? Now it doesn't, as we know, because of the stupid way that stun counter works, when you give something stun counter, it doesn't immediately get stunned. So it can block, but it won't then be able to attack for the next 5 turns. Target opposing creature gets stun counter 5. Then that creature gains enchanted. When this creature attacks or blocks, your opponent draws a card. Eh? I mean, that's just weird, isn't it? I mean, okay, by my own logic that I was just saying there, so when you give the thing stun counter, yeah, it can still block. So that is relevant. But then doesn't stun counter, doesn't that take it out of commission for 5 turns? What does stun counter do? Does that maintains a creature disabled for a number of turns equal to the counter's value? Right. So, I mean, I believe that means that for 5 whole turns, it won't be able to attack or block. So that's just weird and pointless. And, oh, all right, fair enough. Yes, okay. You cast it and maybe it blocks. Okay, right, hang on a second. This creature loses enchanted. Oh, no, but it doesn't lose stun counter 5. I was just wondering whether you played this on a card and it could still block on that turn, and maybe if you attacked, maybe it lost the stun counter. It doesn't lose the stun counter. So this does take something out of commission for 5 turns, which is a long time. Doesn't really matter that it's got 4 shields on the support, does it? Because the stun counter is an aspect that immediately goes onto the creature. So that's a pretty decent removal spell, to be perfectly honest. A pretty decent removal spell. Definitely worth having in the bag. I'm not, not the greatest of removal spell, but when you're putting together a removal suite, you want removal cards that do all kinds of different things. So it's that's a nice thing to have around. Obviously, it's blue because blue is the best. Bitter Blossom. Wow, Bitter Blossom is just an absolutely badass card in basic Magic. What have we got here? Here it looks like what we've got can't block. Okay. Well, I mean, of course, tokens can't block by default anyway. So what we've got here is like a small Thopter Spy Network. Now, Thopter Spy Network, it is a lot cheaper than Thopter Spy Network because you always have to remember with Thopter Spy Network that you have to have another support in play, which is not nothing. I discovered fairly recently, playing Family Business, that Thopter Spy Network doesn't counter the Vanguard supports, for example. So my deck that was full of Vanguard supports and had only one other support that I wanted to play Thopter Spy Network with, I only had one other support that could turn it on. So it's a great card, Thopter Spy Network, but I mean that's a significant cost that you have to consider. The fact that you need to pay 14 mana, 13 mana to put it into play and have a support. This you don't need to have another support. You're just paying 7 mana. Boom, it's in play, 4 shields, that's serious. Awesome artwork on this card, isn't it? Who is this artwork? I should recognise this art. Is that Rebecca Leguay? I don't know. Very nice artwork, anyway. We're getting 2 blue fairy tokens. You are losing life, and it's quite a lot of life, isn't it? 3 life every single turn to put 2 tokens into play. So that's it's not escalating very quickly, is it? Escalating half as fast as Thopter Spy Network is a lot slower than Thopter Spy Network. In the meantime, it's doing you 3 damage. I mean, it's a card. It's certainly a card. You can even turn the fact that it's dealing you damage to your advantage in some various ways, like Will or Rowan, whichever one it is that needs to damage yourself. And it's fine that you're getting creatures. I'm not sure I consider this to be a premier threat. Not sure I do. I like token generators a lot. This one isn't completely wowing me, but it's definitely good. Definitely a good card. Blossoming Tortoise. When this creature enters the battlefield or attacks, destroy the top 4 cards of your library. Then return the last creature or support land card from your graveyard to play under your control. Hello. I mean, that's pretty fucking powerful, isn't it? When it enters the battlefield or attacks, destroy the top 4 cards of your library. Return the last creature or support land card from your graveyard to play under your control. That is very boss. I mean, we do have a bit of a problem with lands right now. Lands are shit at the moment. Lands used to be really great in the last standard when we had all those pathways and things and man lands to be playing with. My standard deck, I don't even play with any lands anymore because lands are so bad. I'm using, a lot of people aren't. People have moved on to the Moxes. Cut your losses is a good way to put mana into your cards. I hear Blade Call Servant is quite good. Wrenn and 6, the Vanguard, is one method I particularly like to fill up my cards with mana every turn. So lands are a bit shit. We haven't seen any good lands in this set yet, have we? That's disturbing. I wonder if Webcore have just forgotten to put lands in. Who knows? I mean, we do still think that this is an octagon. I still think that this is an octagon design. So lands are kind of bad at the moment, which is a real shame. But that is a very good effect, definitely. A creature or a land support from your graveyard to play under your control. Of course, if this happens to hit another Blossoming Tortoise, boom, it immediately triggers itself. These will chain off each other. Unlikely. Is it unlikely? It's not unlikely, is it? If this is the only creature in your graveyard, say you drop 100 cards into your graveyard and this is the only creature or land support in your deck, they will all just chain back out into play, won't they? Because you're destroying the top 4 cards of your library, but it doesn't have to be one of those cards. That is the land or creature. It's whatever the last creature or land support card is. So that's an interesting thing. I mean, I'm not sure we care. If we got built a deck with enough power to drop 100 cards into our graveyard and then do a thing, we can probably do a better thing than just put a lot of 3/3s into play. But this is good. This is a good card. We like it. The beginning of your turn. Oh, here we go. The beginning of your turn. Convert some gems. That's the time to do it. Convert X gems to green. X is 2 times the number of land cards you control, including their reinforcements. When a land creature enters a battlefield under your control or is reinforced, it gets +1/+1. Well, there are no land creatures out there. There's one, isn't there? There's Nantuko Monastery. Maybe they've remembered to put one in this set. I imagine they probably haven't. And maybe there's some really complicated way to turn a creature into a land creature. In fact, I might have already seen some complicated way of turning a creature into a land creature. It's ringing a bell, but... So in short, I like this card, but I think that the crappiness of the lands in Standard is almost certainly going to prevent me from playing it. I mean, as a first play, it's a little underwhelming, isn't it? You get you pay 11 mana, you get a 3/3. Doesn't convert anything if you don't have any lands. If it's your first play, it might not even get something into play. Your green players out there probably know good ways of dropping things into the graveyard. Gather the Pack is, of course, a good way of dropping things into the graveyard, isn't it? If you gather the pack and play one of these, boom, you get a few things coming back out again. But for me, I think ultimately the thing that's going to stop me from playing this is the fact that lands are shit in standard at the moment. That may, of course, change. We've got 3 years worth of standard rotating for lands to get good again. And there is no reason why lands wouldn't get good again. I've just been waiting a long time for them to print lands that aren't shit, and they just haven't been doing it. You know? We haven't had not shit lands for a very long time now. Boundary Lands Ranger. At the beginning of your turn, you control a creature with power 4 or greater. You may discard a card if you do draw a card. Whatever the fuck. Bramble Familiar we saw yesterday. Let's find out how much the flip side of it costs. 15! Yes, I thought it might be really expensive. It's still a good effect though, isn't it? Destroy the top 10 cards of your library. Pick one of the first 4 creature or enchantment or land cards with the greatest mana cost. Move it to play. Oh, I would have guessed maybe 18 cost for that. So maybe even a little cheaper than I was expecting. Yeah, that's going to be a good card, I think. We don't like the front side of it so much. We like the back side of it. Fetch the first land card in your library. Bargain, create 3 forest tokens. Yeah, that's pretty rubbish. There was a time when I was doing the reviews, and we used to come across cards that would say, fetch the first land card in your deck, it gains full mana. And there was a time when I used to get excited about that. I was like, oh, I like fetching things and get them gaining full mana and them getting land. That's all very good. I like that. And slowly I realised, didn't I, that what would be better than playing with, you know, say 2 lands in your deck and something that fetched the lands and put them to play would be playing with 3 lands in your deck. That would be better overall than doing that. And that is talking about a card that fetches lands and puts mana into it. This doesn't put mana into it. I therefore don't care. Destroy an enchantment card your opponent controls at random. Oh dear, even just... We need more demolishes. You cannot make a control deck. Cannot make a control deck. Yeah? If every individual card needs to destroy a particular subtype of supports. There are too many now. There are land supports. There are enchantments. There are artifacts. There are vanguards. There are emblems. There are supports that don't have a type. There are token supports. Do you see? I need 1 card in my deck to blow up all of them, like Demolish or Void Rend. I don't have room for this card in my control deck. Technically speaking, I don't mind it existing because maybe the Johnny Combo players are only scared about one specific type of enchantment, and maybe they want to add this to their deck because they're scared of that type of enchantment turning up and stopping them from comboing off, and they want to pick that enchantment out to destroy out of the land supports and artifact supports that their opponent has. Maybe. So I shouldn't be too upset about cards like this existing, but the problem is there are so many of these types of cards and there's so few demolishes. What we need are demolishes. Calix, it's Dan Stevens. Hello, Calix. I think he looks like Dan Stevens anyway. I play him in play the Planeswalker in Face the Hydra. Not because he's any good, he's rubbish, but just because it helps me remember where my Face the Hydra decks are. Calix Guided by Fate. Constellation, a random creature you control gets +2/+2 permanently. That's good. That creature gains trample until end of turn, whatever. Yeah, why not just give it trample? Until end of turn. Why do you need those words? When a creature you control deals combat damage to your opponent's Planeswalker for the first time during your turn. Okay. If you control a creature with a roll, target creature you control gains a random roll. So you need to already have a role. Now, Constellation is when you play an enchantment, isn't it? An aura or enchantment spell. Okay. So it's a 6-mana 2/2. It's making things bigger when you play enchantment. So it's fairly small. We've got a small amount of threat here. A 2/2 with +2/+2s, even though it's, you know, better than an Orchard Spirit. That doesn't mean very much in the grand scheme of things. So we need to already have a role, and if we do have a role, you can give target creature either monster roll, royal roll, or young hero roll, which none of which tell you what they do when you click on it, because why would you want to know that? Okay. Otherwise, okay, this is interesting. Otherwise, create a copy of random non-token support card you control in your hand. That copy gains full mana. Now, okay, this is starting to sound interesting now. So what you're saying is that, let's say I don't have a creature with a roll, because why the fuck would I? So I hit somebody with this 2/2 creature, and bam, a random non-token support card I control in my hand. Presumably, yeah, going by the wording, you would assume, wouldn't you, that a non-token support card you control means in play. So one of the supports that you control in play gets copied into your hand. That copy gains full mana. Now, generally what that means is that whatever you play, whatever that support is that you've copied, if you were to play it, it would just reinforce the first copy and do absolutely nothing. But there are, of course, various things. I mean, one of them we saw not so long ago, didn't we? We saw Bitter Chill, for example. That's the type of thing. That is, in fact, an enchantment that you might want to copy. And you would get the advantage of having played a second copy of it. And then, of course, there's the whatever that virtue of loyalty is, I believe it's called. Do, 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 do. Well, all of these virtues, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, you could get copies of these things. It's the blue one that we kind of liked, wasn't it? Apparently, the blue one isn't as good as it looks, because once you've copied a creature once, it gains an emblem. So if you then reinforce that creature at a later time, you never get another copy of a creature. Yeah, if you play a Harbinger of the Tides, sorry to keep going back to Harbinger of the Tides, I just love it so much. If you play a Harbinger of the Tides, you get another little 0/1 Harbinger of the Tides. But then that Harbinger of the Tides now has a knowledge emblem. So if another 4/4 comes into your hand and you play it, you don't get a second copy. So it's not as good. Anyway, what Calix is saying is that you would copy that Virtue of Knowledge, if it was in play, into your hand. And then you could, for example, flip it over and play it as a spell. So that is kind of interesting, isn't it? Where's he gone? Calix, there he is. Kind of interesting. Bit small, isn't he? 6-mana 2/2 is a type of thing that might smack into a wall. Are there any good walls around these days? I mean, there's Phyrexian Vindicator, isn't there? Yeah, there's some good walls around. There's Phyrexian Vindicator. There's Judgment. Who's that white judgy guy who turns into Sinner's Judgment? There are some good walls around at the moment that you want to worry about, that he will smack into and not ever have done anything. But he's okay. Do I care? I don't think so. I don't think I care personally. Other players might care. Then there's the roll thing, which I honestly just can't be asked to get my head around right now. Maybe the roll thing makes some kind of difference. But the fact of the matter is he does have the words full mana on a card, full mana written in his text box. And when a card has full mana written on it, you really have to take it seriously, don't you? Oh, I got a thumbs up, but nobody else seems to be watching me. Anyone said anything in the chat? Nobody said anything in the chat. Sound off if anyone happens to be in. Hello, peeps. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for Calyx, but I don't think I'm going to be playing with him. But I might even snap him up. Look at this. I've got 6,819 pink jewels. I might even snap him up just so I've got him to see if I want to play with him. You know, see what he turns out when I'm mastering him and see if he happens to look really exciting. Yeah, I kind of like him. Candy Grapple. Oh, nasty. I like the artwork there, definitely. Target creature gets -3, bargain gets -5. It's the curse of bargain, isn't it? Target creature gets -5, -5. Yeah, it's just, everything's wrong with this card, isn't it? Just we need more cards in Magic that just say target creature gets -X/-X. Full stop. End of sentence. Believe it or not, Hibernum did that right in Origins. It wasn't a powerful enough card, but they made a card that said target creature gets -3/-2 for 8 mana. I can't remember what it's called now. And then everyone's just forgotten about it since then. Because, of course, cards get ported in from the game. Nobody spends enough time when they're designing cards, remembering that this is a different game from paper. We need more cards that say target creature gets -X/-X permanently. Because -X/-X until end of turn is just worse than destroying the creature. And there are plenty of cards around that destroy creatures. So we all use those instead. Candy Trail can't be reinforced. Right. When this support enters the board, draw a card. When this support is destroyed, gain 3 life. That needs to cost a lot less, doesn't it? How much would that? Because two mana, we could talk about that, couldn't we? I think we could talk about that. But 5 mana is too expensive. Chancellor of Tales. When you cast a spell with adventure. Now, this needed to be an adventure card, really, didn't it? I think. Needed to have adventure on it. 15 mana, 2/3. Jeez. The first other spell card with adventure in your hand gains 12 mana. If you can't fetch the first card with adventure from your library. I mean, 15 mana, 2/3 is the problem there. So expensive. You know, if you want to generate 12 mana, you can do it by cutting this card out of your deck and playing with mana efficient cards. That's the way to generate 12 mana. Charmed Clothier gets the Royal Roll. Just going to remind myself what the Royal Roll is. Oh yeah, I remember what the Royal Roll is. The Royal Roll is the hexproofy thing, isn't it? It's the hexproofy wardy thing. Monster Roll +3/+3. Sorcerer does the pumpety thing. I haven't seen a lot of Sorcerer around. Young Hero gets +1/+1 permanently. Okay. That's all gone in one ear and out the other. Where were we out here? So, see, I've already forgotten what Royal Roll does. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hexproofy wardy, so we really don't care about that. Charming Scoundrel. Creature enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. Create a gold token. Target creature you control gains Wicked Roll. Now that's the one that makes it big. And people seem to really love Wicked Roll. I've had guys talking to me about how good Wicked Roll is. And Wicked Roll for me is just the curse of the Spy Network all over again, you know? It's like, Steve, what if you have an enormous stack of Thopter tokens? Just imagine Wicked Roll can make them bigger and then can damage your opponent when they all die. And I'm just like, yeah, so can attacking my opponent with a big stack of Thopter tokens. And I don't have to have a crappy 9-mana 1/1 like Charming Scoundrel of a deck. Cheeky House Mouse, I'm sure we saw. The name rings a bell. Even though what it did went in one ear and out the other. Manafield, discard a card, then draw a card, create a gold token. Well, that's certainly not good enough. For 7 mana, yeah, definitely not good enough. Commune with Nature. This seems like that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Commune with Nature. This is probably a reprint in paper of an earlier paper card. We ever had Commune with Nature before? I could find out, couldn't I? I could type Commune. We've had Commune with Dinosaurs, haven't we? Yeah, we've had Commune with Dinosaurs. We haven't had Commune with Nature. But I suspect in paper it's a reprint from a different set. One of the first 4 creature cards from your library, fetch that card. It's not good enough. Conceited Witch, we saw the other day. I remember the artwork. Cross Somnophage, we saw. Curse the Werefox. Gains monster roll, fights the first opposing creature. That's not powerful enough, is it? Creature gets. Oh, look, it's a 3/3 with lifelink, like what I said there should be. When it enters the battlefield, it gains a cursed roll. Does that mean it's becoming a 1/1 until end of turn? I'm confused now. Cursed roll. At the beginning of your turn, the base power and toughness of your creatures with cursed roll becomes 1/1 until the beginning of your next turn. That means it stays a 1/1, doesn't it? So when I was talking about, we were talking about that removal spell earlier, that blue flash spell that gave everything cursed roll. And I noticed it only happened to the beginning of your next turn. I'm like, well, it's not really removal then, is it? But I think the fact that the support remains in play, the token support remains in play, and keeps giving the creature with cursed roll. So I think it permanently stays a 1/1. So I think what's happening here is we've got a 3/3 with lifelink, and then it immediately turns itself into a shit creature until such time as you blow up the roll token. So no, just make it a 3/3 lifelinker. Deal 4 damage to the first opposing creature. How much damage is too little damage? Any finite amount of damage. You are correct, sir. That is the correct answer. It gets the young hero roll, which I already don't care what it is. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Decadent Dragon we saw the other day, but we didn't check out how cheap this was. Fetch the first 2 cards from your opponent's library. 6 mana is quite cheap for fetching the first 2 cards from your opponent's library. Somebody might like casting that spell. Still a bit expensive for my taste. Ho! Do you see what I did there with the name of the spell? Devouring Sugarmore we saw, didn't we? Have for dinner is 8. 13, 13. Yeah, we saw it. Bargain, target opposing creature gains the cursed roll. I mean, that's just too expensive, isn't it? We think we like giving something the cursed roll. But if you want to turn something into a 1/1, try casting Turn to Frog. There's no need for us to have a shitty 3/2 out and have to blow up one of our own things. Discerning Financier, Mana Field. At the beginning of your turn, if white is not the colour with more gems on the board, gold token. Well, that's uninteresting and uncontrollable. Mana Field. If you control a gold token, your opponent gains control of a gold token you control Draw a card. That card gains X mana. X is its support shield. Right, that's not powerful enough and not reliable enough. It's the perfect package. It's therefore a piece of shit. I'm calling it. When you cast a card during your opponent's turn, target opponent creature gets -3/-2. You see, there you go. That would be the type of card that could benefit from not having until end of turn on it, giving something a permanent -3/-2. It's quite hard casting a card during your opponent's turn. Nobody would still give a toss about this card if it did say that. But have it say that anyway. Be more interesting and less wordy and more powerful and less shit. All of those things it would be. While this card is in your graveyard, okay, I like the start of this text box. When an enchantment support you control is destroyed during your turn, increase its level by 1. Right, that's not a thing that happens very often. Then when this card's level becomes 3, return it to your hand. Yeah. There are all kinds of creature cards that just bing straight into play from your graveyard when a single thing happens. The 3 things happening when 3 different things that aren't very likely to happen, when they all happen, the card comes to your hand. That's not powerful enough. Or you get to see what a Rat Swarm token is now. A support card that can't be reinforced but does only have 1 shield. That means it's going to die a lot. So having a lot of Rat Swarm tokens into play, yeah, it seems like a bit of a mixed blessing. It's very easy to sweep those off the board with a nice, powerful, commonly played card like Cut Your Losses. This is not to say that a bunch of Rat Swarms won't deal a little bit of damage. 2 of them certainly won't deal a lot of damage, but there'll be other cards somewhere else that put more Rat Swarm tokens into play. But it seems an unreliable way of killing your opponent to me, Rat Swarm tokens. We will see. There'll be a card somewhere that does, put 30 of them into play. Who was that big dragon who used to just completely swarm the board in gold tokens? That's what we'd be looking for Rat Swarm tokens, wouldn't we? But this dog, Edgewall Pack, nah, mate, nah. Your opponent discards 2 non-land cards without mana from hand. We're not interested. Not interested. If there have to be cards without mana in, we're not interested. Then, if you don't control a fairy card, exile the last card without mana from your hand. Not interested in that card in the slightest. Elusive Otter we saw yesterday. What's the other side of it? Oh, that's a bit 10 mana for +2/+2. That's a bit too expensive, isn't it? Elvish Archivist. Did we see this? Can't remember. When an artifact card enters into play under your control, this creature gets +2/+2. So you just +2 return creature reinforcements. This effect can only trigger once per turn. Yeah, rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. When an enchantment card enters play under your control, draw a card against 3 mana. There's just not enough effect on that. It's not big enough. It's not enough effect. Nobody's going to care. It's not spiky enough. It's not Johnny enough. It's not Timmy enough. It's for nobody. Elvish Archivist is for nobody. Embereth Veteran. When this creature dies or loses a reinforcement, target creature you control gains Young Hero rank. I'm going to do it. I'm going to just go and look, even though I'm going to regret doing it. When a creature you control with Young Hero roll attacks, gets +1/+1. Okay. Whatevs. Now, we noticed that Arietta the Charmed Apple, we of course did see her yesterday, but we noticed she is for sale. So I said she was going to get a nerf straight away, but cards that are too powerful to go on sale don't necessarily get nerfed. It's still not, it's not a shoo-in. If you buy her, I'd say you're probably doing it at your own risk. Because honestly, there might be just such a torrent of annoyed people posting in the forum. I can't attack with my creatures. This is such a shit card. It's such a pay to win card. They might nerf it anyway. It's, you know, it's not a given that that they won't nerf it just because it's for sale. I would say if it hadn't gone on sale, it probably would be a given that it would be nerfed. But because it's on sale, who knows? I mean, I don't spend money on cards often. I'm certainly not spending money on this one, and we will see. It's certainly a good card. I'm also kind of interested in the fact that there's an alt art version of the card. Now, usually alt art cards are on sale from Fibblethip, aren't they? So maybe they will give us. It would be silly to put it on sale and also give us the alt art version to buy for crystals and Fibblethip. Well, maybe they'll do it anyway. Who knows? Keep an eye out anyway to see what's going to happen with Ariette of the Charmed Apple. Here is her apple on its own. When the support enters the board, gain control of target opposing creature until end of turn, it gains haste. Now, we've seen this effect for red, and it's usually a lot cheaper than 11 mana. When the support is destroyed, gain 3 life, then your opponent loses 3 life. I don't know. There might be some kind of combo-y effect that people can figure out to do with this. As a straight card, yeah. If you want to gain control of one of your opponent's creatures and give it haste, do it with a red spell that costs 3 or 4 mana. Don't do it with an artifact support that costs 11 mana. There might be some. The fact that it is colorless support means there might be some combo-y thing you can do with it. And I will be interested to hear if you people out there come up with something. Ariette's Whisper. Your opponent discards the first 2 cards from their hand. Full stop. None of this fucking with mana bollocks. No, just the first 2 cards from their hand. Boom, they get rid of it. That's okay, isn't it? It's a little expensive for 8 mana, but it's okay. Then target creature you control gains the Wicked Roll. Now, Wicked Roll is the thing people like, isn't it? It's pumping up your stack of tokens so that they're bigger, and then when your stack of tokens dies, it deals a little extra damage. This seems like a decent enough card. I mean, it's not going to save you if your opponent starts comboing off with his Blade Claw Serpent, is he? So it seems a lot. I mean, I don't play with Infinite Obliteration for exactly that reason. You know, my control decks, I need to be destroying whatever's in play. Getting rid of cards from my opponent's hand is of supreme indifference to me. The last discard card I probably played was it called Whispers of Emrakul? It was in Shadows over Innistrad in probably like 2016, and it cost 3 mana to discard the first card in your opponent's hand. And this was a very long time ago. You know, it was part of an ob deck. And Ob had win conditions and card advantage built into himself as a planeswalker, regardless of what deck he had anyway, and creature control built into himself. And he was a lot lower power than we're used to from planeswalkers these days. So it was a long time ago. I care about discarding cards, but this isn't too bad. I don't mind this as a discard card. Has somebody come in and said a thing? Hello, somebody. I see somebody's here. Oh, Main Loop. Hello. How you doing, mate? Save and Outdoors and More. Hello. I don't know who. I'm not sure who you are. I don't recognise your name. Oh, there's Lars. Hello, Lars. Welcome in. Oh, there's a few people popping in and out. Hello, hello. Welcome. Expel the Implode. I'm in the for the newbies. I'm in the actual game today, so I'm having to kind of skip through the cards that I already saw yesterday. But being in game does mean I get to see what the costs of adventure cards are. So, for example, Expel the Interlopers, I remember we saw yesterday. So we move right along to Fey Offering. Hey, a masterpiece. When you cast a creature card for the first time each turn, okay, just the one time, increases card's level by 1. When you cast a non-creature card for the first time during each turn, increases card by 1. Okay, so its level can go up by 2 every turn. I do notice, I see out of the corner of my eye, this card's level is going to become 1 later on, but we haven't got there yet. At the end of each player's turn, if this card's level is 3 or more, create a clue token, a food token, and a gold token. Right, well, I mean, that's blatantly shit, isn't it? You have to cast, every time you cast, not necessarily all in the same turn as well, but every time you cast a creature spell and a non-creature spell, this thing takes note of that, goes, here you go, have nearly a card, have nearly some life, have nearly some mana. I'll put them in play for you, and they might turn up later. And then it resets back to 1, so it can happen again. Does anyone care? Again, who's the card for? What players out there give a shit about this card? No players. That's who. Fairy Dream Thief. When this card enters the battlefield, surveil 1. Now, here's the thing about Surveil. Surveil was too good. They ported Surveil in from paper, and the first run of Surveil cards we got were things like Discovery, and Connive, and they were all too good because Surveil was constructed as a mechanic to kind of filter through your lands in paper. Your basic lands, which everyone has to be playing with basic lands in any standard format, certainly. And so they ported Surveil as is over to Magic Puzzle Quest, and it was great because we don't have basic lands. So all it was looking for was gas, and it was giving you amazing card filtering. So the reason why we like Surveil in Magic Puzzle Quest is because it's too good. But recently, we've been getting these Surveil 1 cards. There was a card in the last set that had Surveil 1. Okay, we did have Pylon, which was a nice creature removal with Surveil 3, and that was good. But we had another crappy creature with Surveil 1. This has got Surveil 1, and yeah, it's not good enough, is it? If this is some reason, some effect to try and trim down the power of Surveil, it's ill-fated because Surveil 1 is crap in it. Anyway, when you match a black gem by swap, if this card is in your graveyard, you may draw a card. If you do, lose 3 life, then exile this card. Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? Imagine if this guy just lived in your graveyard and every time you got a swap, a black swap, you would draw a card and lose 3 life. We could certainly talk about that. I'm not sure I necessarily want to lose 3 life every single time I get a black swap. I'm thinking particularly, there's a land, isn't there? There's a land that, a black land, and every time you match one of his activate gems, even if you've got 6 cards in your hand, you draw a card and lose life equal to its half its mana cost or something like that. And it's a very much a missed blessing. It's one of those castles. Castle Lochthwain, I think it is. I think it's Castle Lochthwain. But this is only going to give us 1 single card. And as such, not interesting enough. Fairy Fencing. Target creature gets -X, -X until end of turn. Yeah, we know my feeling on that. X is 3 times the number of fairy. Yeah, fuck off. Farsight Ritual. I've really given up on this whole not swearing thing, haven't I? So much for that. Never mind, eh? Farsight Ritual. This is a bargain card. Is this going to have the curse of bargain on it? Is this going to be a card that could just not have bargain on it? I bet it is. Let's see what we've got. 14 mana. Pick up to 2 of the first 4 cards from your library. Fetch those cards. You gain 6 mana. Not they gain 6 mana. You gain 6 mana. That might be a typo. Doesn't it seem like it might be a typo? Considering that Talent of the Telepath gets you at one of those cards and puts 6 mana into it, and this costs 14 mana, if it's only going to give you 6 mana total, it's a bit shit, isn't it? There's Bargain, though. Bargain, if it's not a copy, create a copy of this card in your hand. It gains 4 mana. I mean, it very much seems not powerful enough to me, doesn't it? Seem not powerful enough? I don't. It does seem more interesting than some of the other bargain cards we've seen. I really don't think I'm going to be playing with it, but this does give me pause for thought, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I do have some supports I might want to throw away. I like my supports a lot, you know. I'm really not the kind of player who just has a lot of gold tokens in play. I have supports in play. Bargains might not get rid of vanguards. Maybe I can have a Teferi in play, yeah, and a Ren and 6 in play, and Bargain won't touch those, and all of my other supports will just be gold tokens. And maybe I can play with Bargain. That's a possibility. I still feel like I won't be playing with Farsight Ritual. It's too expensive. I don't like it. Thornsbane Troll. When this creature enters the battlefield, this creature gains the monster roll. I believe that's giving it +3/+3 in it. Activate 3. This creature loses a roll and gains regenerate 3. They've actually put a thing. Beginning of turn, a creature will regenerate that has received damage will heal itself. I mean, I know what regenerate does, but often they do things like give things regenerate for weird times, because Octagon certainly didn't know what regenerate did. Creature loses a roll and gains regenerate 3. Then it fights target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So it's a 4/4. I believe it immediately comes a 7/7 with monster roll. The beginning of your turn. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's a 4/4. But it doesn't matter because it doesn't get the activate gems anyway. So it comes into play as a 4/4. Next turn, the roll activates, it gets +3/+3. Then the activate gems hit the board, and then it might be able to fight something. Seems very high shit tier to me, doesn't it? It's going to be a great card for mastering. Yeah, there's a decent amount of beef, and it kills things. Great card mastering. High shit tier. Feral Encounter. Pick one of the first 4 creature cards of your library. Fetch that card. Deal X damage to the first opposing creature. X is the greatest power among creature cards in your hand. I don't care. The nut draw for this is Gaia's Revenge, isn't it? Isn't that the best thing you could be drawing? Because that's a pretty good card. Who's saying hello? Roy Bum. Hello, Roy Bum. Welcome in. Hello. That's a pretty good card, Gaia's Revenge. You know, you'll need something else to help you cast it, but that's, you know, that's why you've built a deck. You're paying 10 mana, you're fetching one of those, you're dealing 16 damage to something, untargeted. I still don't get it. It's still not good enough. It's still a finite amount of damage. I'll be playing with a removal spell that actually does removal that I can count on. Thank you very much. Werefox we saw the other day. Gain the monster roll for 5 mana. +3/+3 for 5 mana. I mean, that's all right, isn't it? That's all right for a rubbish common. Definitely mid-shit tier. This might even be high shit. See, it feels weird calling a common card high shit tier, doesn't it? I mean, it's not, that's not, even though 5 mana to give something +3/+3 permanently, that's a lot more power than you usually see in a common. It's not as good as the high shit tier power of Thornsbane Troll, is it? So no, mid shit tier. High mid shit tier. That's what I'm gonna say. High mid shit tier, yeah. Deals 2 damage to any target. Ooh, fuck off. You'd nearly. There could nearly be a thing here, couldn't there? Obviously we don't care that it's got flash, but there could be a card draw card, yeah, that deals a little bit of damage and draws you a card. Couldn't there? That could exist. There's a space for that. We don't have that one of those yet. We've got 5 mana spells that like discard you a card and draw you 2 cards. But something nice and cheap. I know. What you're going to say. You're going to say the Johnnies would abuse it if it cost 2 mana. Yeah, and it did 2 damage to a target, and you drew a card. The Johnnies would abuse it. And some pedants out there are going to tell me that this does cost 2 mana because there's a gold token thrown in you, whatever, mate. So there's a place in the game, I think, for a card that does an amount of damage and draws a card, but it has to be really cheap in order for it not to be shit. Because as soon as it starts being even as expensive as 5 mana, it becomes a shit removal spell. I don't know what that is. Did you all see that? Did you all see a sparkly line go across my screen then? I don't know what that is. I don't think you saw that. I think that was just me that saw that. It's something to do with my tablet. For the longest time, I thought it was a fault in Magic Puzzle. It first showed up when I was playing the actual game. Anyway, since you can't see it, I should stop talking about it, shouldn't I? When you match an artifact supports gem, deal X damage to the first opposing creature. This isn't even an artifact support. It doesn't even have the decency to be an artifact support. It's got 2 shields. This is a piece of shit, isn't it? This is supposed to be... This is... What are we going to call him? Glenn? Glenn, the game designer. Again, isn't it? He's out there. He thinks he's the fucking bee's knees. He thinks he's out doing his job. Because we're all going to have loads of gold tokens everywhere. And so you can put this into play. And this is just going to deal so much damage. X damage to the first opposing creature. If you can't, X damage your opponent's planeswalker. X is this support shield. Yeah, with a board full of gold gems, this is going to deal just so much damage. Glenn thinks he's earned his fucking keep designing that card, and I hate him so much. Frantic Firebolt. Deal X damage to target creature. X is 2 plus the number of cards with adventure and spell cards in your graveyard. I mean, we're nearly up to Beacon Bolt standards here. That is what Beacon Bolt is, isn't it? It's X damage, where X is the number of spell cards in your graveyard. Can you spot the important difference, though? It's the reason we really like Beacon Bolt is that Beacon Bolt can be shot at people's faces, and this can only be shot at target creatures. So there is a functionally unlimited amount of damage this card can do, but the fact that you can't shoot people in the face with it renders it pointless. Sorry. Target creature gains stun counter 3, draw a card. Interesting. Is that good enough? That might even be good enough, That might even be good enough to get rid of something for 3 whole turns. Kinda, even though it doesn't really, But I mean, it does, it is disabled, isn't it? Stun counter does actually disable the thing. It doesn't disable it straight away, as I recall. Maybe it does now. Maybe they've actually fixed the code. Who knows? But it's certainly going to be disabled for 3 turns, and this only costs 5, and you draw a card. It's worth thinking about. It is worth thinking about. I don't think it's going to earn a place within my removal suite, but it's not a bad card. It might even be good enough to see tournament play. Some people might actually like it. Don't mind it at all. Gallant Pie Wielder. The beginning of combat on your turn. Celebration. Creature control gains double strike. Did we see him yesterday? Seems to kind of ring a bell. All of your creatures gain double strike. 7 mana, 2/3. I mean, maybe. Does anyone like this? It's all right. Is this a cheap way of giving a lot of things double strike? I don't know. I don't like it. I'm not interested in creature combat. You know, could give a toss about creature combat, but you know, maybe it's okay. You've got to kind of build around it a bit, innit? It's not really in the realms of high shit tier. It's okay. It's okay. Galvanic Giant we saw yesterday, didn't we? Again, Arcanum Weaver. He's in the latest pack, isn't he? I noticed him in the latest pack. What have we got here? When this support enters the board, create a white Vigilant Knight token. Type creature you control gains the Wicked roll. Remind me. The Wicked roll is the good one, isn't it? +1/+1 for each of its reinforcements. Right, so the white Vigilant Knight is immediately becoming a 3/3, in fact. Well, the start of next turn it's becoming a 3/3, isn't it? So not so interesting so far. When you match an enchantment supports gem you control, this is not an enchantment support. This is in fact a human wizard. Great. So glad they're fucking doubling down, even at this late stage, on having as many different fucking types of support as they possibly can. I really hope they make a spell that says that a whole card that costs like 5 mana and says destroy a random human wizard support card your opponent controls. I really hope they do, because I love it when support removal gets individuated. I really fucking love that so much. Anyway, that support loses 2 shield. Not good. Pick 2 of the first 4 support cards from your graveyard. Move those cards to your hand. Those cards gain 4 mana. Okay, that was good. When you match an enchantment supports gem, right, not this one, some other enchantment support that you have, it loses 2 shield, right? That's a problem. That might blow it up. Pick 2 of the first 4 enchantment cards from your graveyard. Right, so even if it does blow it up, this is just going to get it back out again anyway. Interesting. Move those cards to your hand and they gain 4 mana. So there's even kind of, a possibility for some kind of recursion going on here. Maybe you want the support to die. So you match it, it loses 2 shields, it dies, it goes to the graveyard, it comes straight back into your hand. When an enchantment support you control is destroyed, which is going to be happening a fair bit, because when you match your enchantment supports, anytime you match an enchantment support, in fact, there is no limiting factor on this, it loses 2 shield and therefore might die, but that's okay because it comes back again with its friend. You get to create a white Vigilant Knight token. But this can only happen once per turn. Right. So you can match as many enchantment supports in a turn as you like, which, us loopy players know might happen a lot if you're casting a lot of cut your losses in a turn. But you can only create one single Vigilant White Knight token in a turn. So our dreams of having a big stack of them, which would be really useful because it has Wicked Roll, have been dashed. We're only going to get a fairly large stack. This seems good though, doesn't it? This seems good. Just a general enchantment support recurring thing. I don't really know what enchantment supports there are around to be recurring at the moment, but I'm certainly going to go and find out later. Yeah, so I'm going to keep keeping my eyes on this thing. It seems like it's powerful. It even has a little bit of a threat built into it. You know, a white Vigilant Knight token that becomes a bigger white Vigilant Knight stack of tokens and even has Wicked Roll on it is big enough to be a threat. It's not a particularly great threat, but it's big enough to be a clock, isn't it? So yeah, I think we like that card. And we look forward to seeing if there are enchantment decks that can do good things with it. Gingerbread Hunter we saw. Godric Cloaked Reveler. At the beginning of combat on your turn, celebration. This creature's base power and toughness becomes 4/4. Right, no longer a lowly 3/3. When you go to all the bother of casting 2 different cards on your turn, this now gets powered up all the way to being a 4/4 with flying. Hooray! For 12 mana. It would have been broken. A 4/4 for 12 mana would have been broken. They had to make it a 3/3. But you can power it up to be a 4/4. When you match a red gem, for the first time during your turn, your dragon creatures get +5/+5. Right, he is at least a dragon. I see. Okay. So he is at least a large creature. I don't care. I don't care about him. But like they could drop that whole first paragraph. The only interesting bit is that second paragraph, isn't it? You know? You match a red gem, he hits harder for a turn. That's okay. He has haste. He's perfectly high shit tier card. Don't think anyone's going to give a shit though. You think someone's going to build a dragon deck with him in it? I don't. Grab each other. We're all just going to be happy when we're mastering a deck with him in it. That's it, isn't it? Yeah. Because we're going to be going for the red swaps, and he'll win the level quickly, and then we can, you know, once we've played with him 16 times, we'll forget he ever existed. Crabby Giant. When you match an artifact or land supports gems, draw a card. I think we saw this guy create a gold token. Even if we didn't, I'm moving on. Graceful Takedown. X damage to target creature. X is the total power of creatures you control. Rubbish. The beginning of combat on your turn. Celebration. God help us. Greta, Sweet Tooth Scourge. I fucking love the artwork on this one. It's absolutely amazing. It's like fucking Vanellope Van Schweetz or whatever her name is. It's just gone absolutely rogue, doesn't it? From Wreck-It Ralph. I love the artwork on this so much. It's amazing. When this creature enters the battlefield, create a food token. Okay. I really want this card to be good just because I like the art, but I know in my heart of hearts it's not going to be. What's been said in the chat? Main Loop says, been using Gen a lot. Yeah, I can well imagine, actually. Works great with blue PMA. Oh, okay. No, so you're talking about ambiguity and all of that kind of stuff. I can see that, actually. Gen is not blue, though, is he? So you can't actually play him with the actual blue PMA Teferi Walker, Teferi Chronomancer, or whatever he's called. But no, I can definitely see that. Where were we? Actually looking to see what Greta did. She creates a food token. When a food token you control is destroyed, target creature you control gets +2/+2 permanently. Still not very interesting. Draw a card. If you do, you lose 1 life. Okay, this is presupposing you're going to be making a lot of food tokens. So as such, I don't think we care. I've not seen a card that makes me think, oh yes, I want to. This card spams food tokens all over the board, and I'm going to look for other cards that have synergies. I suspect even if I did see a card that said that spams food tokens all over the board and is powerful enough to be worth playing, I don't think I'd play this with it. I think what I'd do is I'd go, I'll play Blade Coil Serpent with it. Thanks very much. Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted her to be good because, my God, look at that artwork. It's so great. Gruff triplets. Anything like Sen triplets. That's what we want it to be like. They were good. Anyone remember them from paper? I think they made it all the way to vintage. Maybe not for long. I think they were disappointing in vintage. I think they did make it to vintage for a while. Anyway, when this creature enters the battlefield, reinforce it 2 times. Okay, so we have a 16 mana 9/9. That's not too bad, is it? When this creature dies or loses a reinforcement, your creature gain monster roll. Then your creature monster roll get +2/+2. So it's a 16 mana 9/9. I mean, that's blatantly not big enough. It's big, yeah, not big enough. Gumdrop Poisoner we've seen. Guillaume MasterChef. We're all onto the Bake Off now, aren't we? Don't we all prefer the Great British Baking Show now from MasterChef? When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Glenn's there. He's like, yeah, Steve, remember Greta? Here we go, Steve. And they're the same colours as well. You can play them in your green and black Planeswalker because I don't understand how the game works and everything has to be green and black because those are the only green and black things that green and black. He's rubbing his hands, Glenn. When a creature enters the battlefield under your control, create 2 food tokens. Yep, don't care. When a creature matches a food supports gem, a random creature you control without prevent damage gains prevent damage and reach until end of turn. Right. So what you're saying is that if I want my creature to block my opponent by gaining reach and having prevent damage, I have to just keep my fingers crossed that Greg will just happen to match a food support on his turn. Yeah? Now, this does happen. I've got to say, I play with, what's it called? Oh, what's the Gainy Life card from Scheming Fence? I play with Scheming Fence, right? And this does happen sometimes with Scheming Fence, is that Greg will match one of the activated gems on Scheming Fence, and it will disable his creature on his turn, and it will prevent me from being attacked. And it prevents me a certain amount of damage, not a huge amount of damage, but a certain amount of damage in games. There are some important differences here, though. Number one is that Scheming Fence puts out 7 activate gems, not 2. It's constantly renewing those 7 activate gems. Yeah, a food gem that gets destroyed just vanishes. Admittedly, you don't have to cast a creature for this. You could Thopter Spite Network it. Yeah, good combo with Thopter Spite Network. Yeah. Or what's that thing? Bitter Blossom. Yeah, you could do that now. That's black. So, and secondly, and most importantly, is that is a very secondary use of Scheming Fence. The primary one, of course, being to pop all of the different activate gems yourself with Ren and 6 or cut your losses or whatever your favorite way of blowing up the entire board is and gaining a ton of life. This really needs until the beginning of your next turn on it, doesn't it? At the end, it's that until end of turn kills this. I understand why they didn't just get rid of until end of turn, but what it needed to say was until the beginning of your next turn. As such, piece of shit. I mean, high shit tier, but low high shit tier. It's creature enters the battlefield, gain 6 life, bargain, convert 2 gems to green. Fuck off. When this creature dies or loses a reinforcement, create a rat swarm token. Okay, just absolute dog shit. Where are we? There we go. Heartflame Duelist, we definitely saw. We can flip it over and see 6 mana, 4 damage to any target. Certainly not enough. Hearth Elemental we saw. We can flip that over and see that discard your hand, then your 2 cards only cost 4 mana. Which, you know, is better than we often get. I would say that effect usually costs 5 mana, doesn't it? I've seen it on 5 mana cards, but still not good enough. Hellhole Rats, this is new. When a rat enters the battlefield under your control. Now, we have rats, don't we? We have rats in the form of rat swarms. These are rat enchantments. I've got Rat Patrol by They Might Be Giants in my head now. Go listen to it. It's really good. I like it. When a rat enters a battlefield under your control, your opponent discards the last card that can be discarded from their hand. Right. So this is a rat. So presumably when this comes into for some reason I don't. Do you ever get that? You start reading a card and you think, oh, this is definitely an enchantment. No, it's a 2/2 creature. Presumably when it comes into play, it triggers itself. It will make your opponent discard a card. They're always very vague about this, whether creatures trigger their own coming into play abilities. But you'd assume that this one probably does. If they can't destroy the top card of the opponent's library, well, I mean, it's very unlikely that they're not going to have any cards in their hand, but it's a thing that might happen. We don't really want to destroy the top card of their library, but we do want them to have no cards in their hand. So if we are destroying the top cards of their library, that has happened. Then deal X damage to your opponent's Planeswalker. X is half the mana cost of the last card in your opponent's graveyard, rounded up. Now, the last card of your opponent's graveyard does mean the last card that went into it, doesn't it? It does mean the latest one that went in. So if the first card you drop into your opponent's graveyard is like a 1 mana card, it doesn't mean you're only ever going to be dealing with 1 damage, does it? This seems decent enough. This definitely makes me think, where are the other rat cards? Doesn't it? Because if you can make your opponent discard a bunch of cards and deal him a bunch of damage, then that's amazing, doesn't it? The last card that can be discarded is terminology they've started using recently, but doesn't refer to mana that's in the card. It's basically talking about madness, which is a bit weird because we haven't had any madness cards in years. But you can discard people's cards if they have mana in them. Yes, this card definitely makes me want to go and look for other rats. Because this could be very, very powerful. It's a very small threat, 6 mana, 2/2 with haste. I mean, for God's sake, that just might smack immediately into a wall and die, mightn't it? But just making your opponent discard a lot of cards. If there are a lot of rats out there, might be very good. We shall see. When this creature enters a battlefield, your opponent loses 8 life and you gain 8 life. Yeah, that would be all right, wouldn't it, if it didn't have bargain? Yeah, Curse of Bargain strikes again. Hollow Scavenger we've seen. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Create a food token for 4 mana. Hopeful Vigil. When this support enters the board, create a white Vigilant Knight token. When this support is destroyed during your turn, that's a weird extra little bit of text, isn't it? Create a white Vigilant Knight token. Has Glenn made this to combo with that? With again the Master PC enchantment? I think he's made this to combo with that. I'm not sure I care. I don't think I care that it combos with that. It's not good enough to combo with that. But it has, you know, certain synergies with it. And I don't think anyone's going to give a toss. Horned Lockwhale. This is one of the first cards we saw, wasn't it? And we predicted that the removal side of it was going to be too expensive. And it is. 10 mana. Target opposing creature to the top of its owner's library. I mean, that is better than a straight bounce spell. To the top of your owner's library is better than a straight bounce spell, but 10 mana and it only does creatures. So we're not getting the full effect of a totally lost. So generally speaking, not good enough. I'll be really surprised if I ever find myself wanting to play with Horned Lock Whale. When you cast a spell card with Adventure, this card gains Vigilance. How nice for it. That's lovely. That's lovely. Hilda of the Icy Crown. Right, a nice art. Again, she's doing the frozen thing. I don't know any of the words to the froze. It's probably good because maybe... Do you get copyright strikes if you just sing crappy versions of this? I suppose, if I had instruments and I was doing karaoke, I might get a copyright strike. But if I just let it go, will I get a copyright strike? I very much doubt it. When this creature blocks, the creature it blocked gets stun counter 1. Well, it's not going to block a lot because it's only 3/4 vigilance. When a creature gains stun counter, draw a card. If you control 3 or more creatures, your creature get +1/+1. Otherwise, create an Azorius Elemental token. It's a 4/4. There you go. That's my review of that card. That noise was a review of that card. What have we got here? Mana Field. Target creature gains stun counter 1. The 2 shields is a problem. Look at that. 14 cost. 2 shields. Mana Field stun counter 1. We could kind of talk about, couldn't we? Or doesn't Mana Field wear off after you've triggered it? Am I right thinking that? Like a card with Mana Field, once you've triggered the Mana Field once, it doesn't trigger again, does it? Because you can't keep using the Moxes. If you could keep triggering Mana Field, you could do horrendous things with Moxes, and you can't. So, yes. So you can only trigger it once, and as such, it probably says on it. Make your first match in a turn inside the irradiated area. Yeah. That, therefore, is shit, isn't it? When a creature gains stun counter, increases card's level by 1. Then you may destroy this card. If you do, draw X cards. Those cards gain X mana. X is equal to this card's level. Yeah, there's a lot of design going on this card, but the base power level of it is just not high enough. So we don't care. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, you may drain 6 mana from your hand. If you do, the opposing creature with the greatest power gains stun counter 1. And that's not terrible for an uncommon. It's not great, is it? If you want to lock a creature down, you don't want to be spending 6 mana every turn to do it. You could just say, for example, kill it, and then it would be dead, and then you wouldn't have to bother with it. So that's not bad for an uncommon, but it's definitely not good. Eldraine, the Pyro Hammer. When a spell card you control deals damage to a creature, deal that much damage to your opponent's planeswalker. That is definitely not injured. There's nothing broken we can do there, is there? No silly things we can do with the doubling damage up to things that we can with whatever the name of the Fire Servant. That's the thing. So I don't think we care about this card. Eldraine's Recruiter we saw yesterday. Ingenious Prodigy. I don't remember. When you match 3 or more blue gems, if this card is in your hand, it gets +1/+1. These effects tend to be not powerful enough. We've seen them before. The card sits in your hand and gets bigger. I don't remember any that that ever actually saw play. Do you remember any of these that saw play? I mean, you could make a case for saying that. What was that bounce spell that used to put 2 16/16 creatures? And it's cost reduced when you cast spells. If you wanted to say, well, that's a card that sits in your hand, Steve, and has an effect while you're doing things, and then you cast it. But the idea of these cards is they're supposed to sit in your hand for multiple turns, and they get better. And yeah, just having a 0/1 that gets +1/+1, not even slightly interesting. At the beginning of your turn, this creature's bluff gets -1/-1. Draw a card. The last card in your hand gains 3 mana, otherwise this creature gains defender. Yeah, Academy, who are those guys? Academy Researchers, Academy Ruin, something. Yeah, aren't they like 1,000 gazillion times better than this? Yes, they are, Steve. That's the answer to your question. Yes. Draw 3 cards. These cards gain 1 mana, create a fairy token. I mean, okay. Seems too expensive to me. Who knows? In days gone by, this might have even seen play in a wizard class deck. I don't think there's a place for it in standard these days, but you know, it's a blue spell. It draws cards. It puts a token into play. Whatevs. It's okay. As a spike, I'm not really interested in just 3 cards with 1 mana. It's fine though. It's fine. Johan. At the beginning of your turn, you may pick one of the first 2 cards in your library. Fetch that card. That's decent, but cards are cheap. Cards without mana are cheap. Oh, hang on. There is more. If it's a spell card, that card gains Outcast and gains 5 mana. Right, so we don't really mind spell cards gaining Outcast if we can cast them straight away. We certainly don't want our permanents to be gaining Outcast, but that's not happening. If we can cast them this turn, which we kind of can, can't we? Like a Talent of the Telepath costs 5 mana, we can definitely cast it. A Broker's Charm only costs 9 mana, we can pretty easily cast that. The problem comes, you know, when we try and cast something that costs like 23 mana, but we always have the choice to like not get that card, or to get that card and exile it anyway, because that's what we wanted to do. I mean, he seems perfectly decent. Seems perfectly decent. I feel like he's not going to make the cut, but he's all right. Don't mind him. He's uncommon. Yeah, he's okay. And I like the fact that they're using Outcast properly on this card. Yeah, he's fine. Johan's Stopgap. What do we got here? Return an opposing Vanguard support to its owners. Ah, this is a modal bounce spell. To its owner's hand. Right, so 10 mana. So it hits Vanguard to its owner's hand. If you can't, the first creature to its owner's hand. Okay, untargeted. We like it. If you can't, return a support card. Yet again, we like that, don't we? It's not saying an enchantment support card or a non-land, non-Vanguard, non-token support card. It's just a fucking support card. Draw a card. Bargain. The last card in your hand gains 6 mana. So let's assume we're not bargaining. We've spent 10 mana to put a Vanguard or creature or support back into our opponent's hand. There's a big problem here, which is that Void Rend does all of those things and just fucking kills the thing. You know? Bouncy's good. Don't get me wrong. I love a bit of bounce. I'm happy with bounce. I don't mind bouncing things. I'm not playing any bounce at the moment in standard. I'm playing Endless Detour, which is bounce related. You know, it puts things on top of the library. So it retains card parity, even though it doesn't get rid of cards for good, because they come straight back again, usually. But this one is returning cards to your hand. Of course, we don't know if this is going to fizzle, if your opponent has 6 cards in their hand, or if it's going to destroy the card, if it's got 6 cards in their hand. There's all kinds of different ways it might work. So, yes, even though this has got a draw your card rider on the bottom and a little bargain rider on the bottom, play with Void Rend instead. I'm really not sure why you wouldn't. Moving on. Kellen the Fey-Blooded. What have we got here? We've got Double Strike. Oh, did we see? Yeah, we saw this one yesterday, didn't we? Equipment and aura cards, you control. I mean, this is a better double striking card than that earlier double striking card that where we had Celebration, isn't it? If you're going to build around a double striking card, build around this one. Don't build around that one. Kellen's Light Blades deal 3 damage. Ugh. To target creature with Defender, Reach, or Vigilant. Oh, that's just awful, isn't it? Just so many hoops to jump through when you could just fucking kill someone. His kill shot only costs 3 mana more than this, for God's sake. Knight of Doves. When an enchantment you control is destroyed, create a bird token. We don't care. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains a reach. If it's disabled, enable it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously not. But, you know, enabling disabled things might have some weird application somewhere. No, what am I talking about? This is worthless. It's a worthless card. I'm really this is all just based on everything I said, and it's all just based on the fact that there's that white card, isn't there, that enables things that I play in Colours of Magic sometime. And it slightly matters that you can enable things in Colours of Magic, because there's another 11 cost card that does disable things that people play all the time, Sleep with the Fishes. So, but no, Leaping Ambush is terrible, and the fact that I was minded of that other card blinded me to the fact that's absolute garbage. Destroy the top 4 cards of your library. Right, it doesn't do anything if we don't bargain. That's not good, is it? We're just destroying the things if we don't bargain. However, if we bargain, return the first creature with the greatest mana value up to 14. So not a Blade Coil Serpent then. From your graveyard to the battlefield, reinforce that creature X times. X is the number of support and token cards you control, including their reinforcements. Then destroy all token and support cards you control. Knock yourself out, Johnnies. If you can figure out something to do with that, I shall applaud you. If I ever lose a game to that, I will send you $50, and I hope you had fun building that deck. Likeness Looter. This is a fairy shapeshifter enchantment. They've had to move the type text down onto a second line there. Is it me, or is the video quality getting blurry? Maybe it's not just you. How's the video quality? I'm getting blurry video quality as well on my desktop. I've just gone over to look at my desktop. How's everybody else? Is everybody getting blurry video quality there? Because that's a bit poo. I mean, you can open up the game and scroll along with the cards with me while I'm doing this, but it's a bit shit that the video quality is. I honestly don't know what we can do about that problem. Anyway, let us move along with Likeness Looter. This is a mana fieldy card. At the beginning of your turn, your first creature without the knowledge emblem gains flying. Right. Uninteresting. Mana field. Discard a card, then draw a card. Exile your first creature with the knowledge emblem. Right. Pick one of the first 4 creature cards from your graveyard. Return it to the battlefield under your control. It gains a knowledge emblem and gains flying until the beginning of your next turn. Right, so we've got no creatures in play. We mana field this, discard and draw, and ping, a creature pops into play. Hooray! But it gains the knowledge emblem, so that the next time we trigger the mana field, that creature's then going to die. So this will get us a creature out for free, But if there's a creature already in play that it's got out for free, it's going to blow it up before it puts a new one in. As such, it's poo, isn't it? Oh, well, I mean, not poo, but not good. Certainly not good. I mean, it's okay. Yeah. It's not bad. It's definitely not a bad card, but it's not a good card. High ship tier. I mean, I guess you don't have to build around this, do you? You don't really have to build around this. You could kind of call it high ship tier. You don't really want to be faffing around with mana fields when you're mastering cards. You just want to be swiping away as quickly as possible at the board, don't you? So I don't think we'd even consider this to be high ship tier. Living Lectern. When a creature dies, draw a card. Then target creature you control gains Sorcerer Roll. Now, Sorcerer Roll is the thing where it just keeps getting bigger, isn't it? When you cast, is it spells or is it just cards or is it Sorcerer Roll? When you cast a non-creature card, okay, the creature with Sorcerer Roll gets +2/+2. Yeah, too much of a pain in the arse for the Johnnies to use. I don't think they'll care about that. Lord Skitter, Sewer King. Right, now we like creating rats, don't we? This is a rat. This is a rat that creates rats, and we had rats before, didn't we? Whenever another rat card enters play under your control, exile the first card from your opponent's graveyard. Okay, well that's weird, isn't it? Because the Hellhole rats, they were putting cards into your opponent's graveyard. I suppose they were using it to damage them. And this is now exiling them, which I mean, I guess that's good. We don't want Greg having cards being dropped into his graveyard because he might get a free Sinner's Judgment out of it, and we don't want that. Faithbound Judge, that's the name of the card that I couldn't remember that turns into Sinner's Judgment. Yeah. So I guess, yes, exiling the cards from your opponent's graveyard is okay, isn't it? At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a Rat Swarm token. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like there are the beginnings of a deck here. This is a nice, cheap rat creature. The Hellhole Rat is a nice, cheap rat creature. And you're just making your opponent discard cards. The thing is, though, so far, what we've got is discards the last card that we decide. Yeah, we kind of don't care about this until we've made your opponent discard the first card that's in his hand. Do you know what I mean? So just playing this and making him discard one card is not interesting. And then just playing the second one, then following it up with this and making him discard the second card, and he's already drawn another card to replace that other card, is not very interesting either. And even making him discard one card a turn isn't very interesting. So the synergy that's going on here is generally not very interesting. We're not making him discard those crucial cards at the top of his hand that he's putting mana into and actually wanting to play. We're still making him discard the dross at the bottom of his hand. It's okay. We still have played some creatures, and this is dropping a Rat Swarm into play every turn. We are dealing him some damage like this and making him discard some cards. It's okay. It's not a tier 1 strategy as yet. Moving along, Lord Skitter's Blessing. When this support enters the board, target creature gains the Wicked roll. Okay, that's the good one. In inverted commas. At the beginning of your turn, if you control an enchanted creature or a creature with a roll, which presumably you do, draw a card. It gains X mana. X is the number of rat cards you control. You lose 3 life. Otherwise, create a rat swarm token. So if we don't have creatures, we put this into play. What happens if we don't have creatures and we create a wicked roll? Yeah? Does anyone know? If we just play this and we don't have any creatures, what happens? Does the wicked roll token drop into play and not do anything? Does the wicked roll token not drop into play? What happens? I do not know. At the beginning, does it say in the... maybe it actually says. No, they haven't thought of that. Why would they think of that? Where are we? Here we go. So well, let's assume no creature can get, at the very least, we don't know if the token comes into play. Let's assume we put this in play with no creature gets the wicked roll. And that means we get a rat swarm every turn. And that's kind of what we want, isn't it? We want a rat every turn. We want to be getting a rat every turn out of this, a rat every turn out of that. And if we do that, then all of a sudden our combo deck is making our opponent discard 2 cards a turn, which is very much keeping him playing off the top of his deck. You know, stopping him from playing a card over 2 turns. I still think it's a bit janky. But the thing is, if we've started by playing Lord Skitter and then we play this, then we have to give something the wicked roll. That means this isn't creating a rat swarm token. That means we're only creating 1 rat swarm token every turn. I'm not into this rat deck. Again, maybe there are more pieces to it. I did this, didn't I, with Poison all the way through, reviewing the set with Poison in it. I was like, well, maybe this will be part of the Poison deck and maybe the Poison deck will exist. The Poison deck didn't exist, did it? I mean, sure, Inexorable Tide was a thing. And maybe occasionally somebody hit somebody with Paladin of Predation. But there was not a weenie Poison attacking deck. That did not exist. So, and I feel like maybe I'm giving the rat deck the benefit of the doubt here, and maybe it's just not powerful enough to exist. Merfolk Coralsmith. Beginning of your turn's creature gets -2, +2, -2. Right, so it's a 4/1. I mean, why does it even do that? I'm baffled why it would even do that. I mean, that's Octagon all over, isn't it? This is this card that really makes you think Octagon designed the set, because you know they're getting paid by the word, so they write a lot of words on it. But that one's kind of weird because, like, why would the paper version even say? I'm going to go and look it up. Does the paper version say that? Merfolk Coralsmith. Because you'd assume the only reason it says that is because the paper version is exactly that. You would assume that the only reason it says that is because the paper version says that. But what was confusing me is that if the paper version said that, there'd be no reason for the paper version to say that either. Who cares if it's a 2/3 out of combat and a 1/4 in combat? The paper version, of course, says something entirely different. The paper version has an activated ability, which they could put into the game of Puzzle Quest. We could have activated abilities on creatures. We have them on vanguards. There's no reason why they couldn't be there. No, they've turned it into this absolutely useless, paid by the word garbage. Oh, hate them. Bye-bye, Octagon. Please never come back. Please go out of business and never come back. Please stop existing now. Bye! When you cast this card, if you have 3 or more mana in your hand, you may have target creature you control gain the young hero roll. That's a +1/+1 every turn, isn't it? If you do, drain 3 or more mana from your hand. Right, well, that's definitely not powerful enough, is it? Monstrosity. I love it. All of this candy-themed evil demon monster the stuff that's going on in this set. I love it. Absolutely love all the artwork. When this creature dies or loses a grief, it's a shame that none of the cards are any good. I mean, that's just a waste of everybody's space. Mocking Sprite. When this card enters the battlefield, reduce the cost of spell cards in your hand by 2. I don't think anybody cares about this, do they? I don't think all the Johnnies care about this. Unless I'm very much mistaken. I really don't think they care about this. You know how the Johnnies could cast a spell that costs around 8 mana? Yeah, to help them cast the other cards in their hand. I'll leave that as an exercise to the reader, but I think you'll find that there is a card that costs something around roughly 8 mana, very close to 8 mana, that will help them cast all of the other cards in their hand a lot better than Mocking Sprite will. Moment of Valor. Choose target creature. If you control that creature, gets +1/+0 and gains prevent damage until end of turn. Yeah, till end of turn. Should at the very least be at the beginning of your opponent's next turn, but whatever. Otherwise, if that creature's power is 4 or greater, it gains imminent death. Just the complexity of this. It could say nothing on it. They could have saved themselves so much effort writing the code for this card by having a blank text box. Just put some nice art on a blank text box. People will collect it. Have an alt art version of the card. Fucking who cares? Wasting our time. Monstrous Rage. Target creature gets +2/+0. That doesn't sound much like Monstrous Rage, does it? Oh, then that creature gets the monster roll. So I suppose that creature does technically get +3/+3 next turn. So to be perfectly honest, if you're giving something +5/+3 for 4 mana, that's a decent amount of power, I suppose. You know, as uncommons go, not so awful. Moonshaker Cavalry. When this creature enters a battlefield, reinforce each creature you control 1 times. We'll skirt over that. They speak English as a second language, probably. We'll skirt over that. Your creatures get +X/+X and gain flying. X is the number of creatures you control, including their reinforcements. Right. How big is this guy then? I'm going to play this. It costs 18 mana. It's a 6/6. It gets reinforced. Becomes a 12/12. It gets +2/+2 because it is a reinforced creature and gains flying. So it's an 18 mana 14/14. That's all right, isn't it? I still don't care. It's just fat. That's all it is. It doesn't have anything groovy like hexproof, like Gaia's Revenge. But there's a decent amount of beef coming out of that creature. And of course, you might even have other creatures in play. So it's kind of doubling up the power of all your existing creatures. And even if you don't have any existing creatures, it's still going to put a decent sized one into play. I'm not offended by that card that I will not play. Mosswood Dreadnought. Did we see this guy yesterday? I'm pretty sure we saw this guy yesterday. Draw a card, against 3 mana, you lose 3 life. That's not bad for 4 mana, though. The other side of it is okay for 4 mana. I still don't think I'm going to play with it. This card dies or loses a rule. Yeah, we don't care about this side, definitely. That's all right for 4 mana. Not really playable. Neva Stalked by Nightmares. When this creature enters a battlefield, there's a lot of text on this one. Strap in, guys. When this creature enters the battlefield, return the first creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Right, we'd prefer it to come into play, but fair enough. 9 mana is a decent enough cost. It's a 2/2. That's pathetically small. It's got Menace, which stops it dying a bit, if that's relevant. We don't know. When an enchantment card you control is destroyed or loses a reinforcement, this creature gets +2/+2. Okay, it'd be better if, when we were playing them. Already I can hear you out there saying, well, it combos with Gen, Steve, doesn't it? Yeah, but Gen's doing all that heavy lifting in that combo. I feel this is just a Just an extra spandrel so far that we don't really give a shit about. You know what a spandrel is? I hope I'm using that word. Maybe I'm not even using it right. I'm just not going to explain it. I'm just going to move on. Then pick one of the first 2 cards from your library. Okay, there's more, right? Okay. So we destroyed an enchantment. This creature gets +2/+2. Then pick one of the first 2 cards of your library. Fetch that card. Move all cards that weren't fetched this way to the bottom of your library. So an enchantment gets destroyed. This gets +2/+2. And then this draws a card and does a bit of filtering. Not powerful enough, is it? I mean, for an uncommon, it's fairly powerful, but not actually powerful enough to actually see play, I think. Needs to generate a bit of mana somewhere, or just be bigger than a 9 mana 2/2. Yeah, no, no, not awful. Knight of the Sweet's Revenge, excellent. At the beginning of your turn, create a food token. Right, well, this isn't going to be it, is it? Well, I was saying earlier, we'd need to really spam the board with food tokens to have a food token deck, wouldn't we? Just making one every turn isn't going to cut it. Create a food token. This support loses 1 shield. Oh, shit, that's not good. When a food card you control is destroyed or loses a reinforcement, the first green card in your hand gains 3 mana, increases card's level by 1. Right, well, it's not going to have long to do this because every turn this is losing a shield. It's going to last 3 turns at the most. It's probably going to get blown up sooner than that. When this support is destroyed, your creatures get +X/+X until end of turn. X is this card's level. So you get a food token every turn, you lose a shield. When a food card is destroyed or lose, you might get to increase the card's level, but you probably fucking don't. That's just a piece of shit. Absolute piece of shit. Not dead after all. Oh, well, that's nice to know, isn't it? What have we got here? 5 mana support. When a creature you control dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. That card gains Wicked, right? And stun counter 1, then destroy this support. End of turn, destroy this support. Oh, okay. I see what they've done here. This is a flash card, isn't it? So clearly in Paper Magic, when something's about to die, you go, ha! And you play this, and something is, quote, not dead after all, unquote. Because, of course, of the way that Flash works in Puzzle Quest, this is considerably worse. You could make a case for saying that this is for when something dies in combat, but when the fuck does anything ever die in combat? Jesus. No. 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 No, 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 no. Bit of sexy beast for you there. That was my impression of Ben Kingsley. When another fairy creature enters the battlefield, your opponent loses 3 life. Okay. You could combo it with Bitter Blossom. Is that good? No, it's not. Attendance, we saw that. Yeah, it's rubbish. Una, Queen of the Fae. Okay. She's really good in paper. Let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Una, Queen of the Fae is a really good paper card. 10 mana 5/5 is a good start. When you make a blue or black match by swap, exile the top 5 cards of your opponent's library. You still don't know which way it's going to go yet. It could go either way. Exile the top 5 cards, then create a fairy token for each color among cards in your opponent's exile. Gain mana equal to the number of cards in your opponent's exile. Right. So it's not creating a lot of fairy tokens, is it? It might create as many as 5 fairy tokens when it pops. It might pull out a Meteor the 5 or a Kamiwar or a Joda. You know, multicolored cards are quite common these days. You've got to imagine in every, you know, the first time you pull 5 cards out and throw them into your opponent's exile, you're probably going to only get 1 or 2 fairy tokens. That's not the good part. The good part is gain mana equal to the number of cards in your opponent's exile. So this hits your opponent, bam, you gain 5 mana. This hits your opponent, you gain 10 mana. This hits your opponent, you gain 15 mana. And that is leaving aside anything else that you're playing with that exiles your opponent's cards. This is a very good card. Do I like it enough to play with it? What it doesn't do... Oh, no, you don't have to hit yourself... Whoa, 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 whoa. You don't have to hit your opponent in the face with it. I completely just made up the trigger there. What the trigger actually is when you make a blue or black match by swap. So you can't go crazy with cut your losses. You do actually have to make a blue or a black match by swap. I just, yes, I love mana and I love free tokens. I just like it a bit more if it drew some cards. Yeah, compare this to the Zealot. What's it called? You know, remember the one, the 5/4, and it's 13 and it hits your opponent and you immediately draw a card and put 15 mana into it. It's just generating that bit more value just a bit quicker. So I think there are better cards than this. This is a very good card. It's way above high shit tier. This is a very good card. I don't think I'm going to be playing it. As I say, I think that whatever that fucking, what's the Zealot? I can't remember. I can search for it. Zealot. Oh, it's not called Zealot. What's it called? It's a creature. It's in Streets of New Capenna. It's probably, I don't know what color it is. It's rare. It's called... Oh, I've got them in alphabetical order. That's why I couldn't find it. Zyatera's Envoy. I don't know why I thought it was called a Zealot. I just remembered there was a Z in it. You see, this is what that card is going up against. This is roughly the same kind of power and toughness. Yeah? But this gets you the card, immediately puts 15 mana into it. That one doesn't get you a card, gets you 5 mana, gets you 10 mana, then gets you 15 mana. It's a worse card than this. It's a shame. It's a good card. It's not good enough. What a shame, eh? Yes, please. I'd like to clear the filters, please. Oh. Yank, yank, yank. Yes, good card, not good enough, I feel. What a shame that is. What time have we got? 10:30. It looks like we've got like 100 cards. 10:30. Let's say 10:30. It's nearly 12:30, not 10:30. I kind of want to keep going at the moment. Let's keep going for a bit. We might have to split this into part 3, though. I was kind of expecting us to be done tonight. But I notice it says up here, it says, oh God, I've just woken up Google Assistant. Shall I go away, Google Assistant? Up here it says 133 of 233. And I know that we've done a good percentage of those cards, but I would have thought we'd be much nearer the end by now. So we should probably cut it off fairly soon so that there's enough time for an appreciable part 3. But I kind of want to keep going at the moment, so let's keep going. We might even do the whole lot of it tonight. Well, we'll certainly have to skip through past cards like Picklock Prankster that we saw yesterday if we do. When this creature attacks, if you control a creature, again, double straight here, blah. Yeah, we saw that. I remember the artwork. This creature dies. I can't remember if we saw that, and it's really uninteresting. Questing Druid, we saw that. Raging Battleman. There's just some awesome card art in this set. When you cast a card for the first time, reduce the cost of the first card in your hand by 3. That's probably going to make no sodding difference at all, isn't it? Because the way that casting cards works means that you've probably already put mana into that card. So unless the 3 mana is exactly the amount you need to cast that second card that's in your hand, it's not going to make a toss of difference. It needed to be a permanent cost reduction, I believe. At the beginning of combat, celebration, type creature controls +1/+1. Yeah, rubbish, isn't it? It's rubbish. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Create a Rat Swarm token. Certainly not good to be part of the Rat Swarm deck. We saw this one yesterday. Create 4 Rat Swarm tokens. That costs 9 mana. So creating 4 tokens, you've got to put that in the context of maybe making your opponent discard 4 cards. But it's a combo to make your opponent discard 4 cards. I don't like combos to make you opponent discard 4 cards. I like cards to make your opponent discard 4 cards. And all this card does is just create 4 little rat tokens. So yeah, it could be part of the rat deck, but it's not part of a rat deck that I like. Realm Scorcher Hellkite. Yeah, we should definitely call it. I think we should call it a night. We'll do one more card. We'll do whatever this R is over the side of the screen here. We'll do Realm Scorcher Hell, whatever this R is over here. We'll do that one. And then I think we'll call it a night for tonight, because otherwise we're not going to have time. We're going to have a really pathetic part 3, aren't we? It'll probably be quite a short part 3 anyway, but I don't want to get on for streaming and do all the preparation work and then find out only doing it for 20 minutes. So we'll do these 2 more cards and then call it a night for tonight. Thank you everyone for being in. How many people have I got in at the moment? 4 people in at the moment. That's groovy. Thank you everyone for being in. It's been good as always. Let's have a quick look at the last 2. The first one being Realm Scorcher Hellkite, which is a 4/6 for 14 with haste. Bargain, convert 8 gems to red. Okay. When you match red gems, deal 2 damage to the first opposing creature. Oh, look at that. I just had a low battery. Does that come up now? Does that come up on? Yeah, it does. You can all see that I've got a low battery that I should have charged my tablet before I started. Right, let's just go. I've completely lost where I was. So let's just go back to convert 8 gems to red. When you match red gems, deal 2 damage to the first opposing creature. That's not a lot. If you can't deal 2 damage to your first planeswalker, that's not a lot. I mean, what? Again, just take bargain off it. That wouldn't be broken if you took bargain off it. Would anyone care? Does anyone like this card if it just had all of that text without bargain written on it? It would be all right, wouldn't it? You know, it would be a creature and it would convert a load of stuff and generate some mana when it came into play. That would be nice. Just take bargain off it. It'd be better. Redcap Gutter Dweller. This is our last card for tonight. When this creature enters the battlefield, create 2 Rat Swarm tokens for our Rat Swarm deck. When you match a Rat Supports gem, or when a creature... Well, that might happen a lot if you're spamming Rat Supports into play, but they do only have 1 shield, so they do all die fairly quick. When you match a Rat Supports gem, or when a creature you control dies or loses reinforcement, this creature gets +1/+1. Then discard a card, then draw 2 cards. Yeah, not interesting enough, is it? Not interesting enough. And we've got the tools we need to deal damage to our opponent. We don't need this guy to deal damage to our opponent. the thing that this does that the other part that the hole rat and the rat king don't do is draw cards. We can draw cards with a much better card than this. We don't care about this guy. Well, it's been more depressing tonight. We haven't seen much tonight, have we? I've seen a couple of decent cards tonight. So, I guess overall, we're still fairly positive about this set. But that will be it for this evening, I think. It is, what day is it today? Is it Thursday today? Well, it's Friday now because the moon is high in the sky and the sun has done another revolution. So it is Thursday. So at some point, we'll try and do it on Sunday. I think is probably the best day, isn't it? I'm probably likely to get most people wanting to come in on Sunday. I think I might talk to some people about what the best time to do it is, but I would have thought doing it at the weekend, probably at the same time. 10 a.m. is, of course, a bit late to be starting. I mean, it's gone midnight here, but of course, all your Americans out there, it's still fairly early on in the evening, isn't it? So that's why I always try and do it a little bit later. But provisionally, we'll say Sunday, 10 a.m. UK time. Although, as I say, I will talk to some people about when might be the best time for them. Even though everyone's going to say a completely different time and it won't be at all useful to get that information in the end, I'm sure. Thanks for stopping in, everybody. I will save this up on my YouTube channel as before. The last one is still there and hopefully will stay there, and hopefully this one will stay there as well. And I will see you all for part 3, hopefully. You all come back now, you hear?